Sam. Hello, everyone. Yep, as Sam said, my name is Elsie. I am the head of customer engagement here at Keela. As you can probably tell from my very thick accent, I am Australian. I grew up in a teeny tiny town called Birchip, which has about 800 people in it. And I grew up on a little hobby farm, so we had heaps of different kinds of animals, pigs, sheep, cow, ducks, donkeys, you name it, we had it. That's a picture of me living my best life on a haystack, which is about the only fun thing that you could do in my tiny town, if I'm being honest. My favorite thing to do at Keela is to create training videos and now webinars and write the customer newsletter as well. So today, first I'll do a little intro into what bulk receipting is. Then we'll see a demonstration of how it works, and I'll go through each kind of section and talk about how you can use it in different ways. And the majority of the webinar will be a demonstration, so you'll be able to see it in action. I'll show some handy resources at the end, so you know where to look exactly in the knowledge base if you have any questions or if you're wanting information in the future. And at the very end, we'll have a Q&A. So there should be a fair bit of time left over for that. I wanted to make sure there was lots of time. What is the bulk receipting tool? That's what we're all here for, right? So in Keela, at the moment, there are a couple of different ways that you can issue receipts. So there's the first one, a Keela donation form, which is probably our most recommended best practice for using Keela. You can publish a Keela donation form on your website, you can share it in emails, you can put it on social media, and it accepts credit card payments or payments via Stripe or PayPal. And when it comes to receiving for that, it's all automatic. So any payment that's received through that has a receipt issued for it automatically. So that's number one. Number two are any of the other ones, the sort of low-hanging fruit. If you've manually logged or imported donations, you can manually issue a receipt for a single donor at a time. You can jump into their profile, you can issue one transaction receipt, or you can combine a bunch of different donations together and issue one big cumulative receipt. So that's a really good option for one-time kind of cash payments or check payments that you receive. You can just one and done that throughout the year. But this brand new tool, the bulk receipting tool, this is going to allow you to issue multiple receipts for multiple donors all at once. So the difference between it and the single manually logging for a single donor is that you can do a bunch of different contacts at once and you can just get them all issued and out, which is a really good option if you had a lot of donations that have come in throughout the year for check or cash payments and you're wanting to get them all done within the next month. Or if you've just joined Keela and you've just imported all these donations and you're wanting to issue receipts for them in bulk, just for any payment basically that hasn't come through a Keela donation form as well. Disclaimer. So one thing to keep in mind throughout this webinar is that our developers are actually still in the process of building this. They're putting the final touches on it as we speak at the moment. I just got a message from our developer before letting me know that they'd stop working on it for my webinar, which was great. You never know what they're going to do. There are a couple of things that will change perhaps within the next sort of couple of weeks. So I'll try and give you insight into the things that might change if they come up. But we wanted to make sure that you saw this as soon as possible so that you could kind of plan the first month of 2021 accordingly. We wanted to make sure you knew what was coming so that you didn't go through and start this receipting process without this information. I'll be converting this webinar into a training session afterwards as well. So there'll be lots of resources online if anything does change. All right, that's it. Let's get started. Where to find the tool? Okay, so from the Keela dashboard, you can find the receipting tool along with most other donation and revenue information in the fundraising section of Keela here. So you will see in this test account, we've got a couple of tabs up here, a little sneak peek into a forecasting tab that's coming soon. You'll receive information on that in the upcoming weeks. Look out for my newsletter. But for today's purpose, we're looking at this new receipts tab that we've added. So there are three sections to receipts. You've got unreceipted transactions, approved transactions, and receipt groups. So when it comes to receipt compliance, it's important, of course, to ensure that you've crossed all your T's, you've dotted your I's, and we've designed this bulk receipting tool in a way that will do this for you as much as we can. We've kind of built in that check process. So each step or each section of the receipts tool here represents a step in that approval process. And I'll be going through each one in detail. But for the moment, let's start with number one, unreceipted transactions. So this is the first step in that three-step process there. In the first step in the bulk receipting tool process. So here you'll get a view of any donation transaction in your account that hasn't received a receipt on it. And you can look at either the previous fiscal year or you can switch to the current year. I figure because we're in January, we're probably all looking back now. So I'll do the previous fiscal year today, but of course you can switch to the current year if you need to issue receipts at any point. So you can do this kind of monthly throughout the year as well. You don't need to wait until January of the next year if you're wanting to sort of do it in little chunks. Okay, so previous financial year. So on this screen, I can see all donation transactions from the previous fiscal year that have not had a receipt issued for them already. Because you can issue bulk receipts for these donations, before you issue, you need to approve them. When you approve a donation from this screen, you're confirming to Keela that the donation is eligible for a receipt. So this is kind of the audit process, the first stop on the checks. Of course, as well, you can remove donations from this screen. So if you find that you've got donations on here that aren't eligible for a receipt, you can remove them. And then at the end, you can just bulk update everybody if you want. You can bulk approve. So we'll go through that in a little bit. So some examples of a donation that might not be eligible for a receipt, so a donation that you might not approve, could be donations where you know that goods and services were exchanged for the entire amount of that donation. So if someone gave a $50 donation and you gave them $50 of goods and services, you can be like, hang on, that doesn't need a donation receipt. If the donor doesn't have a mailing address stored on their profile in Keela or connected to that donation, I know that some organisation types require that as compliant information on their receipt. We'll see that in a little bit as well. Of course, if the donation already has a receipt issued for it, of course, it's not compliant to create new receipts for already receipted donations. So they won't be eligible on this screen if they've already had a receipt issued for them. In that case, if you've issued a receipt for a donation already and you're wanting to include it in a bulk receipt, or if that donation receipt was incorrect, you'll of course need to cancel the receipt officially in Keela, and we've got a process for that. Where you can cancel it, it gets labelled with cancelled, gets stored on file, so you've got it in case the IRS or the ATO or the CRA comes knocking, and then you'll be able to reissue a receipt from Keela as well, or from this tool. So a little introduction into the approval process. Up here, we've got sort of on the screen moving around, you can see you've got a search bar here. Filters, you can filter throughout the list of unreceipted transactions. You can also sort by date received, by total amount as well here. So different ways that you can sort through the list. And I really recommend using those tools, the search bar and the filters and things, to kind of let Keela do the heavy lifting for you if you're looking for particular donations that you'd like to ignore. Alternatively, if you're confident, if you come in here and you know straight off the bat, you know every donation is eligible in your list for a receipt, you can also just bulk approve everyone, and I'll show you how to do that too. If you have any questions about whether or not a donation should be approved or is eligible for a receipt, of course, a tax professional is going to be the best person to ask for that. We're not able to kind of comment on that, but they'll know, your tax professional will know for sure. Okay, let's see this in action. So I'm here, I'm ready to approve my unreceipted transactions. Now, the first step, I think, when you're doing this process will be to remove any of the donations that aren't eligible, that you know aren't eligible. And that way, later on, you can just bulk approve the rest. When you're selecting donations from this screen, there are a couple of different ways that you can do that. So over here, we've got this drop down arrow here, and you'll see this throughout Keela. Whenever there's a place that you can select contacts or transactions, you'll see this drop down arrow icon here. And if you click on it, you'll have the option of selecting everything on this page. So if I click that, it just selects everybody on this page, just those 20 transactions that are displayed. Alternatively, I can select all pages. So that selects every donation across all of the pages. And you'll always have a kind of an idea of how many you're selecting up here as well. You can use the deselect all button. If you accidentally select everyone, you think, oh no, I've got one I need to look at. And then lastly, of course, is just the option to select them one by one as well. Oh, never mind, I don't want to do that. I want to deselect all. Pretend that didn't happen. Okay, so we know we can select them one by one. We can select transactions in bulk. We can select just this page of transactions when we're going through and we're approving transactions or ignoring them. So let's see it in action. So like I said, the first step will be to kind of filter out all the ones we don't need. So let's say that I'm wanting to review my transactions, my unreceipted transactions. It's day one, and I know that at my organization, if a company makes a contribution to my organization, say it's a donation, I know that they aren't eligible for a donation receipt from Keela, whether it's because one's already been issued or that type of donation that they give us isn't eligible for a donation receipt. No matter what, I know if it's a company transaction, I don't want to be issuing a bulk receipt for it. So what I can do is I can use this filters button here to narrow down the list so that I can bulk ignore them and get them out of the list, get them out of my way. So again, click on this filters button here. And here are all the filters that are available. You've got all of the fundraising transactions, you know, the usual stuff like date received or amount, but you've also got contact filters as well. So you can filter the list by the actual donors themselves. So I'm going to click on contacts and contact type, because when it comes to contact type, you've got an individual or you've got a company. So I'm going to filter this list so that it only contains those contacts who have the contact type of company. And if I click filter, only 180 transaction receipts are left. So that's a way that you can narrow down that list. So I'm wanting to ignore all of them, remember, so I'm going to click on this drop down icon here, select all pages, which selects all pages of those transactions. And then if I click on the actions button here, I have the option to either approve them for a bulk receipt or mark them as ignored, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to mark them as ignored. I'm going to clear them out of this list. Get them out of my hair. So I'm about to mark 180 transactions as ignored. The transactions will not be part of the bulk receipting process, which is perfect. So we can remove that. It's cleared my list. If I delete my filter here, I've got back and my transactions are sans company now. So a really good way to kind of clean things up, move things out of the way. Okay, next one. Okay, so here's a good example. I can see here that Pebbles Flintstone has a donation for $1, and let's say that in my organization type, donations of less than $2 aren't receivable. So it's something in Australia where that's the case. So maybe I want to, instead of using a filter to kind of narrow down this, I'm just going to single select Pebbles. If you see other donations in here that aren't eligible, you can of course single select them or unselect them. But for me, I know Pebbles isn't eligible for a receipt. So I'm just going to select her, click the actions button and mark it as ignored. So remove Pebbles from the list. Okay, so my list is starting to look a little cleaner. I've talked to my tax professional. They've let me know companies get rid of, any below $2 get rid of. I've done it. I've cleared out my list. So now everything left over is most likely going to be eligible for a receipt. So that leads us into the approval process. We've just looked at how you can ignore donations. Let's look at how you can approve them and get them into the next step of the bulk receipting process. So I'm going to start with just one by one. So we know that there's a couple of different ways that you can select donations, but let's just start with Wilma Flintstone. I click on the actions button and I approve for a bulk receipt. So Wilma's donation received on December 31st for $100. Let's approve it for a bulk receipt and see what happens. Plot twist. There's an error. So one contact needs to be updated before their receipts can be generated. Click on preview to edit contact. So I wanted to show you this because you might find that when you're approving your donations, you might get this error. And I wanted to show you how you can investigate it and how you can fix it really easy from here. So click on preview to edit the contact. So if I hover over this transaction, I can see the preview button. Click on that and it comes out with a little bit more information. So I can see missing required information, please edit receipt information. And already I can see the problem. There's no receipt address. So for my organization type, here in Canada, mailing address is required for compliant receipts. That's one of the CRA's rules. So I actually can't approve this transaction for a receipt until I've got all the bits and pieces in place that I need to make a compliant receipt. So this is a sort of fail-safe that we have in place. So I'm just going to click Edit Receipt Info from here. So if I'm lucky, if I've got the receipt on hand or if I know it, I can just type it into here and update it. If you don't know the receipt, I definitely recommend reaching out to the, if you don't know their mailing address, sorry, I recommend reaching out to them to gather that information because we can't produce compliant receipts without it. So we won't do that. But here we go. Let's just type it in. Wilma Flintstone lives in Florida. I bet none of you knew that. And I'll update the address, I'll save it, and then it's automatically approved. So it disappears. So as soon as the piece of the missing puzzle is added, it's approved, and Wilma's donation has been removed from this screen. Okay, so now I've tested this out. So I've got Wilma's mailing address is up to date. Maybe I want to say, okay, let's look at all of the rest of Wilma's donations. So I type Wilma's name into the search bar and I can see, okay, Wilma's got quite a few transactions in here. If you select on the drop down icon here, select this page, you can just approve it for a bulk receipt. Oh, hang on. Pardon me, I haven't finished updating her address. Let's go back to Wilma. Oh, hang on. Bear with me, technical issues. Let's go to Wilma's profile and we'll make sure that that Florida address is updated for the rest as well. Beautiful, there we go. Okay, back to it, back to unreceipted transactions. So again, I know that I'm like confident with Wilma, so I'm just going to start with Wilma. I'll search for Wilma, all her transactions, select this page, and then approve for a bulk receipt. Brilliant, 16 transactions approved. We're 16 down, we're 17 down if you include the one I did before. So now I can remove the search. So I'm getting through them all. They're all getting approved. Okay, so let's say now that I've done everybody, I know Wilma's good, I've removed all the ones I want. The last step for me is I'm just going to select all pages, everybody in here, click actions, and I'm going to approve everyone else for a bulk receipt. Let's just do it. Oh, 2 contacts. So now I can see how I've only got 30 left. So what's happened now is that everybody that could be approved, every donation transaction that could have been approved was, and then I can see that there are 2 remaining contacts who don't have a mailing address. So look, it looks like it's Hermione Granger and Harry Potter. I'm going to leave them in here for the moment. They go to Hogwarts, they're still in high school. I think that they can wait a little bit for their transaction receipt. So I'm going to deselect all of them, keep them in here, and my colleague can come and finish them off later. I'm just going to do the ones I can today. All right. Next, so we've just sort of looked at the unreceipted transactions, the section where you approve or ignore. Let's go on to number 2, step number 2, approve transactions. So this is where all the donations go once you've approved them. So from here, you can either email out some or all of these of the receipts that you want to create for these, or you can prepare them as a downloadable zip file where you can print them out. So if you've got people you need to email the receipts to, or if you've got receipts that you'd like to print out, here's where you can sort of get that process started. So again, you'll recognize up here, you've got the previous fiscal year, the current year up here, so you can switch back and forth, but it defaults to previous year. You'll see this drop-down icon looks familiar, the search bar and the filters tool look familiar. In fact, you'll probably recognize them throughout Keela. We tried to keep all the screens as consistent as possible. All right, so since I've got Wilma Flintstone on the brain and I'm pretty confident with sort of her donations, I work really closely with her, perhaps I'm her assignee, I might start with approving Wilma's donations. So again, up here, I'll type Wilma in the search bar, narrows down to all of Wilma's transactions. I'll select this page, so I'll select all donation transactions on this page. Click actions, and it's similar throughout the whole process. Actions button is the way to go. I'll issue receipts for this selection, from this selection, and you can still mark people as ignored from here. So you can still remove them from that list if you like. So issue receipts from selection, I'm just going to do it. So this little pop-up appears that gives you a couple of bits and pieces of customizable information. And the first, the newest concept, I think, for this whole thing is the receipt group name internal. So as its name would suggest, this is an internal label that you can apply to a group of donations that you're issuing bulk receipts for. So you can split your bulk receipts when you're doing this, when you're going through and issuing 100 receipts here and 1,000 receipts there, you can split them up into multiple groups based on multiple factors using this label. So let's say in this example, perhaps I'd like to use to let my colleagues know that these are the donations that I worked on today. Everyone's going to be doing donations. We want to see who's doing what. Maybe I want to show everyone, I did Wilma Flintstone's donation receipts all in one and dusted. Maybe you can make a little competition out of it. But either way, the label I'm going to use for everyone to know is that these are Elsie's receipts. Can't spell receipt. There we go. You think I would have spelled it a couple of times in this webinar. Okay, so that's the label I'm going to be giving. The next option is the delivery method. So there's two delivery methods for bulk issuing receipts. You've got email, so you have the ability to send out the receipt for every transaction that you've selected. Once we move past this step, everything will be automatically sent. So email, or I can print and mail. So I'll show you this in a little bit, but if you do choose print and mail, nothing will be sent or emailed. Instead, you'll be able to download the receipts and print them out. But for this, I know Wilma has a primary email address. I'm selecting email. Next, receipt format for money transactions. So if you're like me and you've got Wilma here who has 17 different receipts, you might want to choose cumulative receipt per donor for this one. So you can definitely choose to send one receipt per donation if you like, but cumulative receipt per donation might be the most effective for you because it means that Wilma will receive one receipt with all of the. If in doubt, choose cumulative receipt per donor if you like, because we'll automatically combine those that can be. And if you've got single donations, we'll make sure that only a single receipt is included. So we'll do the work for you. Next, receipt format for non-money transactions. So this is not editable. We can only send one receipt per donation for non-money transactions, so things like gift in kind, just because it's compliant. It's one of the rules we've got. So we put this here just as a reminder for you that this is an uneditable option and that it's separate from your money transactions, because we don't want anyone to get a surprise and think, hang on, why does Wilma Flintstone have 17 money transactions combined into one, but her gift in kind donation is in a separate receipt? So this is just a reminder of that we put it in here, make sure that they're separated so that your receipts are compliant. Okay, so I've chosen all my little bits and pieces. I'll click next, and here I just get a summary. So this is kind of the final review before you send out the receipts if you've chosen email receipts. So you can see the recipients that are included, the number of transactions, the fiscal year. So we're looking at 2020, the previous year, a reminder of the group name that you selected, and just all the other little bits and pieces. So if you change your mind, if you think, hang on a second, I'm supposed to print and mail Wilma's receipts, you can always click back and change that. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. These 17 donation transactions are good to go. I'm going to click save, and your receipt group is being processed. You continue working, but we'll let you know once it's available. So I am going to remove my search because Wilma's gone now. She's no longer in these approved transactions because she's gone off into the magical land, which is the next step. So let's jump in and we'll see where her receipts have gone. So the third step, receipt groups. So you guessed it, this is where the bulk receipts are stored once you've approved them, once we've completed that second step. So here you can see the group names. That's where that group name comes into play. You can see the names of the different sections that you have issued receipts for. I've got Elsie's receipts here. Looks like my colleague Laura has been quite busy. She might be winning that competition that I've got of who can issue the most receipts in a single day because she's got 2 sections. So I'll have to get onto that real quick, I think. But you can also see bits and pieces of information like the date that they were issued, the delivery method, the status, which will let you know once the receipts have been sent. So I can jump in here and drill down on the group just by clicking on it. So that was a bit quick. So if I click on the group, I can drill down. I can see all the transactions that were included in that. I can see that they were delivered. So they were sent out via email. And even better, if I go into Wilma Flintstone's profile from here and click on interactions, you can see that an interaction has automatically been created as well. So if you send your receipt via email, we'll automatically create an interaction for you. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's leave receipt groups for the moment. Let's go back to approved transactions. I feel like we've still got a little bit more that we can do from there. So let me jump back in, fundraising, receipts, and remember approved transactions is the second step. So we'll jump in here. Okay, so we've just seen how you can approve the unreceipted transactions. Now from this screen, we've seen how you can create the bulk receipts and send them off via email. Let's say you've got contacts who don't have a primary email address. Not everyone does. We still have lots of folks who like to give via check or via cash. Lots of people who prefer to receive communications via mail. So what would we do in that situation? Well, here's where filters can come in again to help you kind of leverage your data in Keela and make sure you don't have to do the heavy lifting. So let's go to filters here. And I'm just going to search for primary email because I'm wanting to get rid of anybody who has a primary email and only keep those folks who don't. So let's search for primary. I'm going to choose email. And I'm going to choose is empty. So I'm looking for only those contacts where the primary email field is empty. Click filter. Looks like I don't have anybody. Okay, let's try another one then. So I'm lucky I don't have any snail mails. Perhaps we've got those folks who have donated in December. I ran a December campaign where anyone who donated in December, I am going to send out a Christmas card or a Happy New Year's card along with their donations. So let's go. The date received is last month because last month is December. Let's try that. Again, I don't have any. Okay, you know what? You saw how the filters work and you saw that they were brilliant. It's just that my test data doesn't have what we need, but that's right. We'll just multi-select. So let's say in the approved transactions, we've got Homer J. Simpson, Bart Simpson, Lisa Simpson, Maggie Simpson, all of these folks here. I know everyone in the Simpson household likes to receive a letter. They're our top donors, the Simpsons, up in Springfield, and they prefer to receive their mail all as one letter in sort of a combined envelope, and I put all their receipts in one. So let's try that. So from here, once I've selected the donation transactions that I'd like to approve, I can issue receipts from selection. So let's go with that. And this one I'm going to call Simpson's Letter Pack. So my colleagues will know, brilliant, the letter pack for the Simpsons is done. Delivery method will be print and mail. And I'm going to do cumulative receipt per donor. I know that there's only one transaction per everyone, but just in case, I'm going to do cumulative receipt per donor. Go next. So I've got 7 recipients, 7 transactions, Simpsons letter pack, print and mail. Good, confident. Let's go save. Okay, let's check out where that goes. So receipt groups in here, you can see my Simpsons letter pack is being processed. If I dive in here, I can see that it's been approved. It's passed the approval process. We're just preparing the zip file that can be downloaded. So you can see that purple download all button. In fact, if you go into any of your other issued receipts, maybe you want to look at Elsie's receipts, let's look at Wilma's, you also have the download all button option there. So even though you've emailed the receipt, maybe you need to keep a receipt on file for your records. And if that's the case, you can just download all from here, print them out and keep them. I know we have some folks who do that. So we've got both options. If you email them, you still can download them all as well. All right, let's have a look. Still processing. So what I might do is go to one I have previously prepared, so you don't have to wait for that download to be compressed, into snail mailers. So snail mailers is my group of people that I created a print and mail receipt. I issued a bulk receipt, print and mail. It was for Atticus Finch. And the status for this one is marked as receipted. So it's not sent, remember, because we didn't email it. We're not sure if you've sent it or not. So we have these as receipted. And from here, you can click download all. You can download it as a zip file. It'll appear down here. Open it up and you'll get a letter. So let's open this one up. You'll get your receipt letter will be included in here. And of course, this is just the same receipt letter that you have and that you've edited in your organization settings. So if you want to change this or make it a little bit more kind of verbose than our test one, you can do that in your organization settings. So you'll get that letter and you'll also get a copy of the donation receipt as well. So it's up to you if you want to send both. We include it in there just in case. But no matter what, whether you're looking at the receipt or the receipt letter, here you'll have the address. So if you want to put it into a window envelope, you can just fold it up and put it in there. So if you want to save some time on handwritten envelopes, you can do that as well. Okay, I dare say that still processing. Oh, we've got one more, Snowball Simpson we're waiting on, but we've got all of the others here are receipted. So that's how you can approve the receipts from the approved transaction screen. That's how you can send them out via email as soon as possible, or you can prepare them in for download in a zip file as well, and you can download them and just print them from your computer. Okay, those are the 3 steps of the bulk receipting process. The last thing I want to talk about is just resources, just to give you an idea of where you can go if you need any assistance. So no matter where you are in your Keela account, you'll always have this bar up here. And from here, you've got this little question mark, and from here you can access our knowledge base. So no matter where you are, here's the place to go. So when you're in the knowledge base, the first thing is anchored right up at the top is this training video section. So in here, we have a collection of all the different training videos that we've scattered throughout the knowledge base. They're all collected here as well. So you'll find these in the relevant articles for them. So if you want a really detailed kind of look, go to the article itself, you'll see the video and you'll get written information. But if you're a visual learner and you want to head straight to the training videos, come over here. If you have any ideas of training videos that you'd like to see, you're always welcome to head to our community, which you can access at the top of the knowledge base up here. And if you go to general discussion here, we've got we've got new webinar topic requests that you can come in here and you can let me know what you'd like to see in the upcoming webinars, and new training material requests here as well if you want to give us any ideas about stuff you'd like to see, new videos, things like that. One of the, I think the most popular training video that you might not be aware of is the filters, how to use filters training video. I think a lot of folks head to the reports training video because they're wanting to see how to use filters, but I just definitely recommend, if you haven't already, watch this video here because it'll show you in more detail how to use those filters that I was using today. It'll give you an idea of how to combine them, how to search them. So that's number one, that's training videos. The second thing, oh, and of course I'll update a bulk receipting training video there when it's ready, when it's been released. The second thing I want to show you is end of year receipting, which is down here at the bottom. So here we have a collection of articles to help with your end of year reporting. So if you attended our last webinar, Tassie, my boss Tassie's webinar on KPIs, it was wonderful. You'll be able to sort of see how you can use Keela to calculate KPIs and do fundraising reports and things. But more relevant to today's session, we've got a couple of articles here to help you with receipting, to kind of organize all those different ways that I talked about at the start that you can receipt. So the first article we'll look at is creating and sending receipts. So here I've summarized all the different ways that you can send receipts. So creating a receipt for a single one-off payment, or creating a receipt for multiple payments at once, downloading receipts, cancelling and reissuing receipts, and of course the bulk receipting tool. They're all collected here with an example scenario. So if you're not sure which one applies to you, you can also always read this scenario and think, okay, that's the one I want, and then access the links here. So you don't have to go searching. Come here as your source of truth and let this guide you. And the last resource is the bulk donation receipting tool article that I've got up here. That just has sort of the latest information on this tool. So if you ever want to know when it's being released, and the current estimated release date at the moment is January 18th, 2021, this will be the most up-to-date date that we have. But of course, whenever we say a scheduled release date, it's not set in stone. Anything could happen. We could end up releasing it sooner. We could end up releasing it later. It's just an idea at the moment. Okie dokie. So I'll jump back here. That's everything I have. Question time.
Question time indeed. Elsie, thank you so much. That was really, really in depth. I will say I never knew so much about the Flintstones and the Simpsons.
Brilliant.
I see Laura's been pretty active in the chat, but we do have a few questions coming through the Q&A.
Sure.
So the first one's from Gabrielle. Is it possible to sort the list of unreceipted transactions by the contact donor name?
Yeah, so that's just that search bar that I used throughout. So if we go back to unreceipted transactions, you can just type it into the search bar. So I was using Wilma, but let's say if I type Potter, it's only going to come up with Harry Potter. Alternatively, if you're not sure, you can also use the filters tool. So you can come in here and you can go to contacts and you can filter by full name, and you can use match as search term. So if you think, oh, I can't remember how Potter's spelled, is it ER, is it AR? You could also do pot there and it would come up too. But the search bar works really well for that.
Also, I love your data set personally.
How beautiful is it? I put a lot of work into it. Pity I didn't have one without a mailing address. That was very embarrassing, but we made it work with The Simpsons, so that was good.
Our next question is from Dana. For a donation under a certain amount to qualify for a tax receipt, could you filter out donations by amount? What if Pebbles donated another $1 at a different time?
Yeah, most definitely. So again, this is a filter. If you think about sort of all your standard filters, so think things like donation amount, date received, they're always going to be filters in Keela. So if you're not sure what filters are available, just head over to the fundraising transactions section and you'll get all the ones in here. So, you know, your date created and things like that. But total amount is definitely one of them. So I could select it from here, or I could just type amount and I could do is between. So I could do, say, $2 and up. So I could look at only donations that are between $2 and up, or I could put, you know, 1 and 2. So anything between $1 and $2 and filter that list down. And then I could bulk exclude all of those. I don't think I have any to show you. No, I don't. But let's say, what if I show you how it works with a smaller amount, $5? So if I go amount, and we'll go is between 1 and 5. So then I've got all those donations and I could just select this page and I could mark them all as ignored, just get rid of them all.
Brilliant. Thanks, Elsie.
Our next question.
Is Trey. Hi, I want to send a donation summary receipts to all of our donors for 2020 so that they have their total number easily available for their tax returns. Most of our donors give regularly. Is it possible to do this through Keela? This tool does not seem to address this, since most of my donors have received receipts for each of their donations. Hence, those donations have already been received and approved, right?
Makes sense, yes. So we are in the process of building an end of year summary tool, but we just haven't released it just yet. So this one came first. End of year summaries is next on the big list that we're working on. I don't have an estimated release date for it yet, but it's in the pipeline.
Thanks, Elsie. The next question is from Michael. Can I add custom notes to the template? For example, below is the amount you've donated directly to us. In 2020, you also donated 440 via Canada Helps and 2,000 via Link Charity. Please contact them to receive charitable receipts for donations processed by them. Also, the amount would have to be drawn or entered manually.
Yeah, so I think that's quite advanced customization of the receipts. For that, I would recommend just writing that out in an email. So these receipts that are sent, I'll show you sort of how it works. So the receipts that are sent, if you go to organization settings and receipts and emails, it's all just pulled from here. So you've got all the letters that you send. So if it's an email letter, you can edit it here. If it's a printable letter, you can edit it here. So let's sort of take a look. You can add as much information in here as you like, and you can include smart codes, so you can personalize them, but not with custom fields or with custom information like that. It has to be kind of a preset field in Keela, like first name or email address. Now, I know that we are introducing the ability to have custom smart codes in the future. So if you added a custom field that had Canada Helps donation amount, you could use that. But one thing to keep in mind, though, is this receipt affects all receipts. So if not everyone at your not everyone in your account contributed to Canada Helps or anything like that, people might get the Canada Helps information when it's not relevant. So these are just your receipts for everything. But you will have that ability moving forward. Just maybe have a think about how you can segment your donors so that you only send one type of receipt once you've got that ability, and then afterwards maybe remove that custom field from here and then send it to the other type as well. But it's on its way.
Thanks, Els. And we've got a last question from Kristen. It seems that in the list of transactions that the columns of date or amount of gift can be sorted. Can we also sort by contact? That would be helpful, as we wouldn't have to type in and search for each donor to see all transactions for that donor.
So at the moment we can't, but like I said, this is still in the process. We've got the two columns, the date received and the total amount. So I'll just let our developers know that we'd like the ability to sort by that. I'm not sure if it'll be released in time, like if we can build that into this, but we can definitely enhance that in the future. So at the moment, it's just date received, total amount, or gift type.
Thanks for also answering that, Elsa. I saw that question pop up a couple times in the chat as well.
Brilliant. Oh, sorry, gift type isn't sortable. I don't know why. Date received, total amount, but no worries, Sam.
And I think, unless there's any last minute questions that want to squeak in, that would be it for this tutorial. I'll give it an awkward 5-second countdown.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
3, 2,
you'll get all the
1.
resources that I showed. They'll be included in the email that you get with this webinar as well. Thanks so much for coming. It was real nice to speak to everybody. I get to talk to you sometimes by typing. It's nice to be in front of you.
We've got one question squeaking in else from Kristen again. Thank you. Is there a plan in the future to have different receipt letters that are auto-generated? It would be great to have different receipt formats for cumulative year-end receipts and one-off gifts.
Okay, so I think what you mean is the ability to sort of change the letters or the formatting that's being sent based on different sort of scenarios. So like my cumulative receipt looks like this and my single donation receipt looks like this. So we are introducing the ability to do that on a campaign level or an impact area level. So for example, if I'm in here and I jump into my campaigns, I can choose for everyone who gets put into the Mother's Day campaign 2019 to get a special pink and red Love Hearty receipt. But then everyone who's in my Easter appeal can get Easter bunnies and things like that. So on that level, we are. I have never received a request for it to be on a cumulative receipt or a single donation receipt before. I think that's a brilliant idea. My recommendation for that would be to add it to our ideas portal. So you can jump in and access that as well at any point with the question mark here. Go to the ideas portal, and here's where we store all of our new feature requests. And a majority of our new tools, including this one, comes directly from here. So you can come and you can submit this idea here. And people can come in and vote on it as well.
Ooh, democracy.
Yes, we love that. Keelocracy is how I like to. Oh,
all right, that terrible pun. I'm gonna close the webinar out. So that concludes the session for today. Thank you so much, Elsie. Tax receipting is a daunting time of year, and hopefully you've given everyone a boost of confidence to get things done quickly and efficiently. I just want to remind everyone that the session today was recorded, so you'll be receiving the recording along with Elsie's slide deck by the end of the week, if not by the end of today. Thank you again, everyone, and we'll see you at the next tutorial.
Bye.